Hi, everyone. It's Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law and Mediation, the Why Do Pets Matter podcast, which is on fire. I'm so grateful to all the wonderful guests I've had. If you haven't listened to it yet, please go there. It's whydopetsmatter.com. You can't miss it. It's on Spotify. It's on iTunes. It's like everywhere. So please go and listen to it. And of course, this wonderful community that meets every Wednesday at 6:30. I've had several of you write me during the week and say, is it recorded? Can I listen to it later? And yes, absolutely. Every single one of them are recorded. And if you register or your friends register, they can listen to it later. I understand that 6:30 Eastern time is not necessarily the best time for those on the West Coast, which means it's 3:30, or for those in Europe, which means it's, like 11:30 or 12 o'clock where Kieran is. So we understand, but Kieran stays up. Why doesn't everybody else stay up? I don't get it. So without further ado, I'm going to check in with everyone and let you know that I went northeast, had a fabulous time, came back and have lots to tell. But before I start, I'm going to ask everyone how they're doing. So let me start with you, Connie. How was your trip to the East Coast from the West Coast?
It was, pardon me, exhausting, gone almost a week. And of course, we had a long trip by air. And Philadelphia International Airport, according to USA Today, is the least wonderful of all the major airports in the United States. And I hadn't been there for 2 years. And I am here to tell you that it lives up to its reputation. Including at the rental car counter, where if you're a fast break customer, you stand in line with everybody else, and it's not a fast break, believe me.
Yeah.
But at any rate, we had a fabulous time, and the weather actually cooperated until, of course, Specialty Sunday, when it was alternating between heavy drizzle and light rain and cold. And fortunately, we Californians have gone there enough that, we know to come with all our rain gear and muck gear and whatnot. So we were appropriately attired, but it was terrific seeing everybody after a hiatus of 2 years. But if you're an officer of the club, let alone, God help me, the treasurer, you're into working all the time, and you have to stay over an extra day for a board meeting. And then we caught a 7 p.m. flight out of Philadelphia for LAX, which got in at 10 o'clock Pacific time, which means it was 1 o'clock Eastern time. Then we had to wait for our bags, get the shuttle back to the car park, and it was another half hour to my house, where my BFF, who's also on the board with me, and I had her stay overnight before she had a long trip back to the desert to her house. So it was, we were like
it takes a lot out of you. It used to be so much easier when we were younger.
Oh Lord. Oh my Lord. And the 2 intervening years really underscored the age. So but we're fine. We're fine.
And how did Casey do?
Casey did not show. I will not fly my dogs. I'm a pilot, and I grew up in first the airlines with my dad, and then aerospace for my career, and I know too much, so I will not fly my dogs.
Okay.
But he and his mom boarded at the vet, and they were the entertainment coming out to greet me when I went over to pick them up yesterday morning and get them out of stir. So they're home. And they're with me now in the study. So everybody is fine, thank goodness.
Well, I'm glad you got there and back safely. Sally, how's everything with you and the girls? I know the girls looked phenomenal. They got a very unique haircut. However, they don't know the difference. So they looked lovely, and their nails were nice and short.
Yeah, their hair is sort of like Andy Warhol in the prime of his career. Their haircut was just, we don't know what happened. But anyway, they're fabulous. They're happy. They're running like crazy. And the ticks are rampant.
Yeah.
And I am brushing them day and night and still finding ticks. Fortunately, my neighbor, who's a doctor, said what happens if they are on NexGard is when the tick bites them, they're paralyzed. So the ticks have all been alive that we've found, but Connecticut is tick country.
Right. And I just want you and Gordon to be safe, since you guys have already went the role of getting a tick-borne disease. So I just want you and Gordon to stay safe. And
Thank you.
again, happy birthday to Gordon. We had a little bit of a birthday celebration as well. It was so much fun. Susan, how is our girl? Is she getting any better?
She is getting a little better. I've tried working with her because she understands commands, and I've, tried telling her sit, and I noticed that since I've been asserting myself, she's been a little less of a brat, maybe is the word, or, but yeah, I'm going to be working on muzzle training on my next session with Kathy. So I'm really looking forward to that. And
yeah, no, that'll be fun. If it's fun for her and she gets a treat, then muzzle training is not negative, it's positive. It's how you approach it. So that'll be great. And that way she'll be safe, and anybody who handles her who she's not too keen on will be safe too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I went to get a remote last night and she was sitting on my lap, and the next thing I know, she's growling at me like she's going to bite my hand off. So
yeah,
we go from.
Yeah, we have to work with her. We're so glad you keep coming, because we have to work with her. And of course, my obligatory question is there a number up on your fridge?
There is, but it's, an out of date number because, I was told by Stephanie that she's no longer, but she did tell me if I could not keep the dog, she would be able to handle the situation. Great. She couldn't keep it, but she would find.
But she would help you. So, yeah. So doesn't she have a cell phone? How would it be out of date? You should call her and get her cell phone so you could put that number up.
Yeah, she lives in Virginia, but she is getting ready to move. So,
right. So just get her cell phone. Say, listen, I just need your cell phone so that I can keep in touch with you. You can keep in touch with me, and we both can, make sure Maggie's in a good place.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that would be the best.
So that's for next Wednesday. You'll have her cell phone.
Yeah, I promise. I would like to hear what Connie has to say about having your pet fly, and why she doesn't, but I don't want to take up your time.
No. We'll handle that later, because it is a very important piece, because people do fly their dogs. I have flown my dogs. However, to fly my dogs, I am probably one of the most largest nudges on a plane that has ever walked the face of the earth, but we'll get to that. Kathy, good to see you. How's everything with the girls?
Good, they're good. Gracie's in heat. I thought that was going to push Emma into heat, but it hasn't. So we're okay. I mean, she's 18 months old. You say too young. I thought that it was going to push her in. It hasn't, so we continue to wait.
Wait with bated breath. And Kieran, how's everything going with you?
I suppose compared to Connie, everything is very, very quiet. Or I think we can all say that anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not doing 6-hour flights cross country. Of course, I have to raise my hand and say I did I guess it took me like 10 hours, Sally, to get from your house to my house.
I think it was 12.
I think you're right. I think it was actually 13, because I think I didn't get home till 9:30 and I left you at 8:30. So I think it was 13. But it was an easy drive with some misting rain, and it was fun. I do want to talk about my weekend for a minute before I check in on the flight status with Connie, why she wouldn't fly. And I think I probably know. However, I'll let her tell us. The thing that was most mesmerizing to me this weekend at Morrison, Essex, and at our harvest cluster is that, I guess, Kathy, what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago at the National, I gave out the little Velcro tags that people can put on their crates to say, this is the dog's name, this is the telephone number, this is their chip, and this is who to call in case of an emergency. And maybe half of the people at the harvest cluster might not have gone to that National, but I'm pretty sure they did. And and none of them had identifying characteristics on their crates. And one of them had one of my dogs in their car and didn't have any identifying characteristics on her crate. And so Louise was driving with a very wonderful and competent handler. And I said to her, where's the identifying information on the crates of the dogs you're traveling with? She goes, oh, it's in a file in my glove compartment. And I said, well, I know you know who Louise is, and you know who the other dog is. I said, but if God forbid you're in an accident, no one else will know. There is no collar on them. There is no identification on their crates. I said, and there's no easy way to call someone to come and get them. I said, so I'm mailing, and I did. I'm mailing 2 things to you to hang on Louise's crate, and I'll mail 2 empty ones for you to hang on whoever's in the car's crate. Because I don't care who you are, you need to put something on your crates in the car, or if, God forbid, because we all know that driving with a dog loose in the car, especially the ones on your lap while you're driving, that's always a favorite of mine, or in the back of your pickup in the flatbed, that's another favorite of mine. You really need to have some identification so that if something happens to you, animal care and control or the police can make a phone call. Having it in your glove compartment is better than not having it at all. Having it on a file on the front seat is better than not having it at all. Having it attached to the crate, best of all. Letting them wear a collar with their number on it. I know, I have Irish setters. Collar marks are hideous when you go into a show ring. Connie understands. We don't want collar marks on our dogs. Our dogs will never wear collars. But we all don't have microchip readers in our back pockets. So sometimes it's better to blow out the collar mark when you get to the dog show and then put the collar back on when you're driving home from the dog show, than to, God forbid, not be able to identify your dogs. And like me, Connie has dogs that all look the same. The only thing that changes is their apparatus. And so you can tell a boy from a girl, but you can't tell the girls apart and you can't tell the boys apart. Some of them in Irish setters have white. I don't think your Wheatons have white, do they?
No, we don't go gray in the muzzle.
Right.
You know,
That's it.
and
Yeah. So that's it. That's
it doesn't change.
yeah. So for us, they all look alike. Kathy, if she had the 2 dogs in the car, they would be different because one's an English Cocker who's black and white, Kathy, and then there's the Irish setter who's red. I know that Sally has her information in her car. I'm not sure that she's done the 3x5 card yet, but she probably will very soon. That would say, you know, in case of emergency, my dogs are at home alone, or my dogs in the back are these 2. And they both do have collars on with their identification and their telephone numbers. So anyone who's on this call, and if you travel with your dog, even if you're in a camper with your dog, you need to have information readily available for someone to help you help those dogs find the person you want to care for them. And it shouldn't be animal care and control and a shelter. It should be someone who knows the dog, who's volunteered to help you with the dog. And if you're traveling cross country, which I will be next year to Colorado, to the National, I'll be driving cross country. Well, we all have membership directories of our breeds, and we just look where we are going to be and find someone who's nearby and call them up and say, hi, I'm going to the National. I see you live in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm going to be going through Cleveland. If something happens in Cleveland, can I put your name down that if something happens in Cleveland, call this person, they'll come and get my dog. And I can guarantee you, everyone will say yes. You know, if they say no, there's other people on the list. But it really is very important because it drove me nuts. And even my handler, I went into his truck and there was Junie's card on Junie's crate. And I said, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that if God forbid something happened to you or your wife, that they knew who to get in touch with for this dog. But the other part was no other dog in his truck had that kind of tag. And it's just ludicrous.
Deborah, I don't know how you don't start yelling at these people.
Well, they wouldn't listen to me then, right, Connie?
Exactly right. They'd walk
They wouldn't
away.
listen to me. I can only tell them what I can tell them and ask them to do it. And as you can see, I was at Morrison, Essex, talking to people gently. I was at the Harvest Cluster talking to people gently. And today we have the same 6 people coming to hear about the community and what we need to do to make sure our dogs are safe. And it'll explode. I know it will. I am firmly convinced it will. However, everybody thinks they're going to do it tomorrow. Susan at least comes and really wants to be part of the community and really know what to do with Maggie. And everybody else is really cheering her on. So she knows, because it is frightening for someone who's not in the dog show world to try to find somebody to take care of your pet. You don't know what to do. And if you have neighbors who don't like dogs, you don't know that you could go 4 doors down or to somebody who you see on your walk and ask them. You don't know these things because it's not intuitive. To me, it's just always intuitive to me to find a solution for a problem. I'm actually going to go out. This is a great idea for all of you. I'm going to go out and buy those hooks for the shower curtains that not the plastic ones, but the silver ones that are sort of like clippy. And I'm going to make laminate cards with just lines in it and say name of dog and who to call. And I'm just going to bring them to dog shows now. And I'm just going to hand them to people. Because if I had that at the show, Darcy would have put it on Louise's crate. And we could have just written on it and it would have been done. So I'm just going to make some laminate cards with those little, hookies from the shower curtains. And you can do it too. Anyone who listens to this call, get a laminate, get a 3x5 card, put plastic, even if you put it in a plastic bag, put those little hooks from the shower curtains on, hang it on the crate. The dog's not going to get hurt by it. But yet someone will know who to call in case your pet is left without someone. And of course, you can also leave those on your front door, or hang it from the curtain on your front door, or hang it from the curtain on your front window, whatever. You're right, Kathy. It does drive me over the edge and down the other side that people do not do this. However, they will. It is an important thing. I'm actually going to take the next 3 months to really focus on doing short videos for Facebook and maybe Twitter and maybe Instagram, talking about what you need to know to care for your pet so that if something happens to you, your pet is cared for. I'm going to, of course, include everyone to read Kieran's book, because I think it's important for them to read it before they get a dog. And it's even more important for them to read it after they get a dog and know what they got themselves into, that they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. It's not enough to be really angry at people, for dropping off dogs that don't work out. We really need to help people choose the dogs that'll work for them. And if they get dogs, sort of like Maggie, who's a little different, a Catan, than the Catans Susan has had before, helping people who have dogs that have different personalities. I mean, all of us have had a number of dogs of a certain breed, and I don't think any of them have been remotely alike. Every once in a while, you'll see a fleeting something that says, oh God, that's why I bred. I love that smile. But the other stuff, you're like, where did that come from? I don't have any idea. So we really all have dogs with different personalities. And I always say I live my adventure with my dogs, and I would never choose to have the same dog over and over again. I just want to have that next adventure with that next dog. So enough of my complaining. Remember, everyone, it's always a system that you have to put together to care for your dogs. We have the D's. So death is only one part of how to care for your dogs. We've talked about, oh, by the way, so this weekend, 3 more people died in the Irish setter world with dogs. So you can't even make it up. And of course, who knows if anyone had any directives, they're leaving them with whatever helter skelter. drives me nuts. So death, disease, deployment, right? There are people who are deployed, and if you're deployed, you really need to make sure that not only do you have short-term care, but possibly long-term care, although we want all of our service members to come home. And now that we're out of a lot of the war zones, they will. Any sort of natural disaster, any disability that can happen to you. You know, I'm helping 3 people in divorce right now, try to figure out who's going to get the dog. And I have many colleagues who say the dog doesn't deserve to be shuttled back and forth. And I said, well, I have to tell you that the dog doesn't forget you. I know this because Roxy's been away from me since July. And she remembered me when I got back. And if I took her for a weekend, it wouldn't throw her off her game. And then she would happily go back to Sally and Gordon's spa. So I don't think that there's that, hard and fast, only one person should get it. We all have talked about dementia. Sometimes I think because of everything that's going on with this house that will never be done, I'm suffering from a little dementia because I'm so crazy right now. There are disagreements that we get involved with that, create havoc. And of course, the disbursement of the dogs when we die. If we don't leave directives, it really is crazy. So I'm going to check in with all of you. Do you have any additional questions? Because we are going to have our workshop this weekend, come hell or high water. And so I would love to know if there are any questions I can answer now so that people can be sort of tickled on what they're going to hear this weekend for the MAAP plan, which stands for Make a Plan, Address the Needs of Your Pet, Appoint Caregivers, and Publish Your Plan.
You forgot one D, Deborah, and that
so
is delay.
Delay.
Delay. And it was real time in the headlines this weekend when I was traveling because Southwest Airlines canceled a gazillion flights. And thank God I was flying American. And it really left a lot of people high and dry. So
right.
If you had your flight canceled,
your dog. Yep.
Right.
Yep. If you can't get home, so I was stuck in some traffic, not bad traffic, but you're right. So I knew I was missing one. So I'm so glad. If anybody thinks of any more, I have no qualms of you stepping up and saying, but delay, absolutely. Because I was sitting here trying to think, I think there's one more. And so perfect. But any questions? So I know, Kathy, sometimes you have questions. Connie, sometimes now you were traveling, Connie. So how did you keep in touch with the vet with respect to your pet, or did you, or were you pretty secure that they'd be fine?
Well, I'm very secure that they're fine because I've been with this vet for this practice for 30 years. And I always leave them at the vet because I know that God forbid anything happens to them. They're
right
in the
where they
best
need
hands.
to be. Right.
And they're comfortable. They know all the vet techs. And of course, they know all the vets. So everything's wonderful. But I did keep in touch with them. I was not, a nervous Nelly mama. But, I did check in and the vet. The vet staff called me a couple of times to schedule dental appointments. By the way, talk about delay. I've been trying to get my kids in, again, still in COVID, for their annual dental exams and cleanings. I've been trying to get them in since September. We have appointments on November 2nd for Casey and November 22nd for Patsy.
Yeah.
And I've been on a waiting list. So vets are quitting like crazy, and vet techs are quitting like crazy. The turnover is awful. So that too is another issue of pet care during COVID.
Really? It's been astronomical. I'm speaking at New York Vet on Conscious Conversations in November. And one of the conversations is going to be around how do you speak to people so that they don't quit or so that you don't quit. I mean, it's both ways. It's been awful and very time consuming trying to help people resolve these things. So I have to tell you, you are spot on that there are so many people quitting. Nobody's coming back to work. And pet owners have, expanded because people got pets during COVID and they don't know how to speak to the vet, the new pet owners. So this is a whole new world. So there's two things that go wrong. One is this is a whole new world and I don't think I like the service I'm getting, or holy goodness, this isn't the service I'm used to getting. So this is terrible. I have to say, right, Sally, you went and the vet had expanded her service.
Yes, it was great. We actually got to wear masks and go into the office for the first time since COVID. And that was terrific. And so, yeah, it was great. We haven't experienced that in ages, and they met us out in the parking lot and the vet tech brought us in. And I think there were maybe 4 dogs at the most in the veterinary clinic at that time. So it was wonderful.
Yeah, I have to say that I have yet to meet the vet I'm supposed to meet here. So that's the biggest concern for me. And if any of you are, looking for new vets, join my club, because it is really a heart-wrenching thing. I envy you, Connie, and you, Sally, for having vets that you've had for many years. And right now, I know that Kathy and I are probably in the same boat. And I don't know about you, Susan, but Kathy and I moved from New York to North Carolina, and we're looking for veterinarians. How's your look for a veterinarian going, Kath?
Well, I've tried to, and I tried calling on Thursday to get a report about heartworm, whether it was positive or negative. And I get a voice, I get a recording saying, leave your name, tell us what you want. They called me back on Tuesday to say, so it's
not what we're used to. And that's what most longtime clients are feeling and new clients are feeling. What do you mean you're not getting back till Tuesday? And as Connie said, she's not getting a dental till November.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go, guys, because I have a tutoring scheduled at 7.
All right, honey, you take good care. We'll see you soon. Okay. Are you in New York or North Carolina?
I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, good. So maybe I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
So, Susan, how's your experience with the vet? Have you had any issues with the vet?
Not recently. I have 2 vets practices or actually 3 that I've worked with. And, I've worked with some specialty vet practices as well. But I haven't noticed, I was kind of surprised when you said that. I wasn't aware of any issue with vets quitting, or I just wasn't aware. I just knew it was harder, because they don't let us go into the building. You have to. And it did seem to take a little bit longer to get an appointment, but I wasn't aware that there was something going on.
I think, it's interesting. Today there was, and maybe some of you, and I'm going to get to Connie in a minute about pilots, but the last thing I want to say is they're talking a lot about the mental health and the mental issues that are coming in. I think veterinarians are one of the group of people who are suffering greatly mental fatigue from being expected to do what they did before COVID with all the COVID protocols, and then being treated not necessarily in the best way by pet owners, because pet owners are fatigued and stressed as well. So I think it's a vicious cycle. I don't know how all of you feel. I know here they just had an article from on the news from UNC. The 2 students took their lives since the beginning of the school year. It's only October.
Wow.
And so they had a mental health day today for all students to sit and really just have mental health, relaxing and breathing and well-being checks. And so I think that what I do for a living is probably something that's going to become more important going forward, because we're going to have to really own our own discussion, but also not own the other person's discussion. Let them have their discussion, but recognize that that's their perspective and they're allowed to have it, but not take it on and own it and really feel the weight of it. And I think that's going to be really part of it. So, Connie, tell me a little bit about why you won't fly your pets, because I know everyone who's listening to this wants to know.
If I flew my own dogs in my own plane, that would be one thing.
Right.
I no longer have my own plane, so that is not an option. Flying commercially, there is one reason with a variety of consequences, and it's called, if you have a dog any larger than 25 pounds, Susan, you may be okay, who can fit under the seat. But if you have to ship in cargo, cargo is the one dirty word. And things that can happen are incredible. Mid-flight, you hit turbulence, the dog gets injured. And in fact, my BFF Bonnie had that happen en route to the AKC National Championships in Orlando. And then the second thing that happened to the dog was he got dropped by baggage handlers, and he sustained a concussion. And he was with a professional handler, very well known, whose name I will not mention. She did not take him to a vet to be examined. The dog was visibly loopy in the ring. He never really recovered. He developed very aggressive behavior, probably because of brain damage, and he had to be put down, this beautiful, beautiful grand champion at the age of 5.
Mm.
When he was a baby, was the most mild-mannered dog there is. Second thing, dogs can get lost. And in fact, coming home from the
BB got
ANC
lost at LaGuardia.
Right. Coming home from the ANC in Orlando, this same dog, that same time he got injured, we were loading up. We were both sitting in first class. We fly on our gazillion miles. And Bonnie was across the aisle from me. I was looking out the window talking to another exhibitor at the ANC, and I could see the baggage trolley loaded with about 8 crates of various and sundry sizes. And I could feel underneath in the hold, they're loading up the baggage. And suddenly I hear the door being shut, and the dogs are still on the trolley, and they're being motored away from the airplane. And I saw Bonnie's dog, and she was talking to her seatmate, and I tapped her across the aisle and I said, "Bon, Tosh is being taken away." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "He's not coming on this flight." So it was horrific. And he did get lost somewhere in Denver, and they finally found him and got him to LAX. But we waited for hours for that dog, and I would not leave her because, needless to say, she was in a panic. Dogs can die in the cargo hold if the pressure
Right. If they don't,
vanishes.
the pressure vanishes, right?
Exactly. Dogs can get out of the pressurized cargo area and die, and some have, if their crate doors are not secured. So ain't no way. Sorry.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've flown with my dog several times, and thankfully only once when Drew was a baby. So that was in 1990. Yeah, it was in 1990 because he was born in March. And I took him as a baby with a dog, because I'm crazy, to Texas. And everything went hunky-dory on the way out there with Drew and the dog, and everything went well. We came back, and I went to pick up my dog at LaGuardia, and my dog was not there. Sort of the same as your story. My dog was not there. And I was just finding out that my dog wasn't there when they got a call from Newark. And several of my friends, Carolyn and Anne Marie and Pat, were flying to Newark, and they picked up their 3 dogs. And then there was a 4th dog there, and they had flipped his crate upside down because they couldn't see that he was supposed to be at the other airport, right? So he's upside down. That means his water is all over. It means enough. So he thankfully was not hurt. However, my girlfriend Carolyn looked in and said, "Excuse me, as only Carolyn can. You need to come over here because there's a hysterical woman at LaGuardia Airport because her dog is right here. And she's carrying a 3-month-old baby at LaGuardia." Sure enough, they call over to LaGuardia, and I had just sort of become hysterical. And they found him, and she took him and her dog home, and they sent the crates on a van. So she took both dogs to her house because she lived near me. And I went and picked him up. But yeah, it can be. I've heard of dogs passing away. I mentioned Vivi. It was a beautiful Westminster, I think. I know breed winning, but definitely possibly group winning as well. She got out of her crate, ran into the marshlands that surround LaGuardia.
I remember that.
Seen again.
Never seen again. I remember that vividly.
So yeah, it is really difficult, which is why I'm driving to Colorado. I may or may not have a dog with me, but I'm driving to Colorado. So before I wrap it up, because I can't believe this half hour has gone so fast. Oh my goodness. Kieran, any updates on our book and the new title? Because Connie hasn't heard the new title. You have to tell her.
I will send it to you, Connie. I will send it to you as soon as I can.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
But tell her the new title. Come on.
Okay, the new title is very simple. I feel like the market focus of the book is the conversation that every child has with their parent. And that conversation takes place in the US every 4.3 seconds. That's the number of children that trigger an adoption, once every 4.3 seconds in the US. And the strange correlations with that is every 4.5 seconds, a dog enters a shelter for the first time. So it's really about how do we target the conversation. And we had a marketing expert look at this, and the best solution is to call the book When My Child Asks for a Dog. And then the subtitle is One-Eyed Leo Guides the Conversation.
Fabulous, right?
So I think we just have it in the nick of time, not too late, and it all fits together. And the strange thing is when you look at the global statistics, this conversation happens almost twice a second somewhere in the world.
And this book is really creating the platform on which to have that important accountability and responsibility conversation before you get the dog, or even after you get the dog, so that people can step up and know that's what they need to do. So, I mean, we're thrilled, Kieran, that you come every week, because it is such an important piece of this discussion on the MAAP plan, because everybody's stepping up. This is part of that responsibility to your dog, because all of us are going to live to be old and crotchety, and, you know, I'll have completely
Some of us already are.
That's right. And I'll have all new Legos in every joint in my body. So no problem. But, you know, we definitely need to make sure. And it's interesting. I'm going to leave on this note. So how funny is this? So I moved away from Sally, and I was her main person to come and get the dogs. And I totally spaced out that my son moved to Brooklyn. And I said, holy Toledo. He will just jump in a lift and go to Sally's in a nanosecond to take care of the dogs if, in fact, something happens. So I said to her today, I can't believe I didn't even think of this, but Drew is there. And so Drew will come and take care of the dogs. And I actually just spoke to him before I got on this. And I said, by the way, if something happens to Sally or Gordon, I volunteered you and given Sally your number so that she can call you. And he goes, absolutely, Mom. I would get there in a minute. And I said, okay, fine, which probably is more like an hour and a half, but a minute is what it is. So I love you all. I'm so glad you're here safely. Susan, I'm so glad that Maggie is getting better, although growling at you when you reach the channel changer, not good, but we're working on it. We're working on it. Get the cell phone number for the breeder, because if she moves, you have to find her, track her down. I'm actually making sure that all of my owners know that I've moved in. I'm using my cell phone. Sally, it was wonderful seeing you and the girls. Connie, I'm so glad you got there and back safely. And of course, Kieran, so grateful you come from Tenerife. We are so grateful to be part of Leo's journey. I think I'm speaking for everyone in this community. We're so glad to be part of Leo's journey.
Well, the best is yet to come. The best is
absolutely
yet to come.
For all of us. So until next week, this is Deborah.
The journey
Hamilton.
is just starting, yes.
Yep, for all of us, and we're all working together. So until next week, this is Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law and Mediation, the Why Do Pets Matter podcast, and of course, this wonderful community where we make a plan for our pets, address their needs, appoint caregivers, and publish the MAAP plan, navigating the journey your pet takes when you can't care for it. Kiss your pets for me, and see you next week.
Thanks, Deb.